both your mothers did not want to give you those drugs, but they didn't know what else to do. And I've been in that situation. So now I want to be that voice that says, you don't have to do this.
Yep.
So there's only one reason I'm glad for my explosion on the internet is that more will hear this, more will have my little handbook on natural remedies, and more mothers will be rescued from that horrible situation of, I don't want to give my child a drug, but I don't know what to do.
I'm just playing, I don't fight, I do pray. I only go the way of Mr. Yahweh.
It's not often I sit down with somebody and they say something that makes me think.
Well,
this was great.
I love you guys.
Will you give me something to think about?
My own damn way.
I had a lot of fun on this interview.
Wow, what a beautiful day it is outside.
Gorgeous.
Wisconsin, right?
Wisconsin.
Minneapolis is a different place, right? Am I tripping?
That's right, we're pretty close, but yeah,
Yeah, because we landed.
in Minneapolis.
Yeah, and then we drove here. Welcome back to the George Janko Show. Guys, okay, let me tell you something. I had 3 guests that I dreamt about. Andrew Tate. It's just actually really funny that they're in the same category. Andrew Tate, Dr. Jordan Peterson, and Barbara O'Neill. Barbara, I can't tell you how much me and my mother talk about you. I think it goes Jesus Christ and then Barbara O'Neill. Like we just bounce back and forth from preaching the gospel or trying to heal ourselves in the proper way that God intended it to be. And I would just like to, what kind of doctor, what kind of what was that? Title. Yeah, what kind of title can I explain to my audience that you would fall under that category of?
Well, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and I'm a great-grandmother.
Amen.
Got 24 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren, and there's another grandchild on its way. And I really just started this because I didn't want to give my children drugs. And it just amazes me how far out this has gone. And what excites me is that yesterday I received in the mail a certificate that's been awarded me from the College of Natural Remedies in Ireland, England.
That's amazing.
Yes, congratulations.
That's amazing.
You deserve it beyond.
They've given me an honorary diploma in naturopathy because of my work in the field. So that's pretty exciting.
That's amazing.
Extremely.
So
Yeah.
take us back. So you said you started by saying you didn't want to give medicine to your children. What was your child going through? And what was like, I want to peel back the layer of a mother that is going to a doctor, getting medication. It's obviously not working. Like, what does that do to the mother's heart? And what did you do to get out and break out? And were you penalized back then for it?
Well, that's what started my journey, really. I mean, I was trained as a psych nurse, and a lot of us were back to nature, hippie lifestylers, probably smoking too much marijuana, had my baby. Baby got an earache at 16 months, went to the doctor, that's all I knew. 6 weeks and 4 courses of antibiotics later, the earache comes back. So that feeling of frustration, of knowing it's not working, but not knowing what else to do, and the pressure that everyone puts on you, your child to go deaf, you don't want your child to go deaf. So as the doctor is writing the 5th course of antibiotics, I said, so is my daughter going to be on this for the rest of her life? Now that challenged him. He sent me to an ear, nose and throat specialist.
An ENT.
Looked in her ears, looked in her mouth, said the child's teething, give her these drops to keep the tubes clear. So 18 months later, next child gets an earache. I don't go to the doctor. I don't tell anyone. I go to the old lady next door. I'm 25, she's 85. What did your mother do when you were a little girl? Because that's before antibiotics. She said Mum would steam up an onion on the stove. So it's interesting that you say peel back the layers. It was an onion.
Wow, full circle.
Yeah.
And James slept for 2 hours. And I don't think he's ever had another earache.
Now, when you got that satisfaction of your child being healed through an onion, that you could just pull it out of the ground, was it this the first day where you're like, your wheel started turning? You're like, wait a second.
Oh, turning's the word. I was like a woman possessed. I've discovered something that you can do other than go to drugs. That's what I wanted, and that's when I started to look at North American history, the North American Indians. I started to to look at, because I'm a reader, I love reading. And old people, you see that? I'm the old person now. They're all dead, the people that I learnt these bits and pieces of. And that was really the beginning of my journey.
Wow. Did you ever discover a naturopath doctor that you like learned from or you took your kids to?
No.
No?
No, I didn't. I really just thought, I think that that's something we can do ourselves. Because you don't need a naturopathic doctor to tell you to put an onion on the ear.
Mm.
And this was an old lady that told me because her mother did it to her. That's the sort of medicine I wanted. Just really ground roots that anyone could do.
Yeah. That is so interesting because, you know, actually the journey that you went through with your daughter is very similar to the journey that my mother went through with me when I was a child. I had very bad asthma and I was on a lot of steroids, and we went to every doctor, and we went to like the head doctor in Switzerland, and he looked at my mom and he said, if you take her off the steroids, she will die and there's nothing else that you can do about it. And my mom was like, I'm not gonna have my kid on steroids for the rest of her life, you know? And there was a woman at the skating rink we skated at that knew this doctor, Dr. Crispin, and he was a naturopathic doctor. And I went over there and he tested us for all different foods and just completely changed my diet. And within 3 months, I was breathing normally. And it was all just based on food. And so same thing as you, that triggered my mom to just learn everything she could because it amazed her, you know?
That's right. And it's so simple. So simple.
Right.
We were talking behind camera about dyslexia.
Mm-hmm.
And when I suffered growing up because they didn't even know what dyslexia was for me. They put me on some type of medication for ADHD, and it upset my stomach so much that in the first period, and this is in the 3rd grade, this is my 2nd round of the 3rd grade, they held me back and put me in resource class. And it would make me throw up. And so in the first period, I would throw up and I would try to hide it in the bathroom because I didn't want to upset my mom, because she was already kind of like sad about me even needing to be on this medication. And then the teacher's telling me that I'm not going to do well. And then so they're just pumping me with medication. They're putting me in classes and they're running around the actual problem. My mother's a great mother, and she would never put anything besides God above me. But she moved this way of fear. And there's a lot of mothers out there that are in terrible fear of their children going in a direction that doctors are prescribing them to walk towards.
That's right. And it's 2 Timothy 1 verse 7, God said, I have not given you the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Education is power, and a sound mind says, well, a sound mind looks at the pros and cons, and fear is an emotion. And I know your mother put you on that because of fear. Your mother put you on that because of fear. And I originally did this with my first daughter because of fear. But when you begin to discover how the body works, then you know how it heals, and the simple natural remedies. And then I went one step further at the age of 26 when I became a Christian. I then thought, how does God view it? How does God view drugs? How does God view these natural treatments? Well, it's not rocket science because God created the onion.
Amen.
And those healing properties in the onion he put in the onion. So it's something that has often been disconnected is God and the healing of the body, and yet God created the body.
Disconnected or replaced?
Replaced and disconnected, I think.
I think what happens is in this world that the devil only has one good weaponry, and it's lying to you.
Yes.
And I think that a man who worries worships Satan, and a man who has faith worships Jesus.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And if I have my whiteboard, I put the two systems of healing, so you can see it side by side. Fear was based on a theory that we evolved, cannot heal, so we have to have drugs. Whereas God's system is based on faith in this incredible body that was created to heal. And if it's not working well, there are herbs, and this is actually the truth. So there are these two systems of healing that are almost opposite each other.
Now this might go into some gray areas, but ever since I became a man and I grew up knowing that I now have a woman to look after and my parents are getting older, I have to assess. And I told my mom, I became a man when I realized I shouldn't listen to my mother when she's in fear and my father when he's in pride. And I have to kind of navigate through the gospel. And there's so many questions that I'm trying to learn. For example, I do have ADHD, but I feel like that's a weapon more than it is a problem. When I was reading the gospel, I know educated men that know how to read and educated women that are brilliant readers. I can't read a book. Like, if you gave me a Harry Potter book, that to me is a sentence of death. Like, I wouldn't read it. I can't do it. But the gospel is super hard to read. But when I sat there one day, and this changed in one day, I sat there and I go, God, I want to understand who you are. So give me the wisdom for me to able to digest this, not just have wisdom. There's a spider on your leg, by the way. It just went up here. There it is. Yeah, that was the most gangster thing I've ever seen.
She went.
That was the coolest. She just went. So I asked God for wisdom, and all of a sudden my dyslexia just kind of like not left, but pardoned itself from me. And I was able to rapidly read and digest this. Now, the other side thing is, okay, so there's prayer, right? I believe that prayer and having the elders lay their hands of healing on you and a holy oil and anointing, I believe in this because I have faith in this. Also, just to make a little side, like, note, I believe that faith could go against you. I believe that if you believe a bad thing too much, I believe it could come into fruition. I think life and death does begin on your tongue. When I was in school and they gave me those drugs that were one step away from meth, it still like didn't help me at all. But is this blasphemous to think that one day I know this sounds bad and I hope nobody judges me for this, but I was smoking weed and I felt really guilty because from the way that they bring out marijuana is not a something of God, they make it seem. But when I did my homework and I saw the way that they try to make this look so evil, and I'm reading the old newspapers and I'm reading the articles that they put, it just didn't add up to me. So I wanted to kind of just dive in this to myself. And one day I was smoking, it sounds so bad. I was smoking weed and I didn't want to hide from God. And I said, God, I know I'm sinning right now, but I want to be in your presence. So I started reading. And when I was reading, I was actually able to like concentrate. And I thought that marijuana was doing what the doctor said that pill was doing for me. Now, mind you, you could take a hammer and build a beautiful home or take a hammer and kill somebody. It's all about moderation and how you use it. What are your feedback and thoughts on marijuana as a medical from concentration, healing, numbing, and anything when it comes to a cope of like swelling, inflammation, or any medical use of it? How do you feel about this?
I don't use it. I don't advise it. I came from the hippie culture where I saw so many guys become so paranoid. I saw so many guys, just stop working and sit on the veranda and smoke dope all day long.
Yeah.
And, my girlfriends and I, we were the ladies who were scrubbing the clothes on the rocks, and we had no electricity while the guys sat on the veranda smoking dope all day. And I just saw it change people. I guess I saw quite the negative side of it. And a guy came to me one day and he said, my father's dying of prostate cancer and marijuana is really helping him. And I say, great. I'm glad to hear that.
So it's basically...
I don't criticise that.
Yeah.
And another guy who had attention deficit syndrome really badly, he'd been on Ritalin most of his life, he pulled the plug and stopped, and he said, do you know marijuana is really helping me? And I said, well, I'm glad to hear that. But I also, if he wanted to come in closer and get my advice, I'd look closely at his life, how late are you going to bed? What else are you doing in your life? Have you got a job? Are you drinking adequate water? There's so many other aspects, and it's quite possible that he could get his life together. If he got his life together, it's quite possible he would not need that marijuana like he was doing it. And it is addictive. I've seen it.
Oh, 100%.
So
I'm addicted to it. So I do not promote marijuana for people, but I am addicted. And if I wish I could never have done it, I absolutely would have. That's why I'll never promote it. I'll never tell people to smoke it. I think it's like a foxhole that I'm in.
Well, when I left home with my children, my first husband had become incredibly paranoid, and he was having 30 joints a day. So,
Oh my God.
So the kids, and he at first he was
He's
having
married
it.
to Bob Marley?
Yeah. At first he was having it to feel good, and then he was having it to try and keep normal, but it actually wasn't even doing that now. And he was growing his own, so it's pretty potent. So the kids and I basically had to escape from our home. You know, we left home with just about the clothes on our back. So, yeah, you can see now why I don't promote it.
Got it. So it's affected your life in a way where you're like, no,
Yeah.
I wouldn't promote it.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? None of my kids will touch it because they saw what it did to their father.
Of course. What was
Yeah.
that journey like for you, leaving your home and taking your kids?
Well, a little bit scary,
course.
but at that stage in my life, absolutely no, I had great faith in God, and I had to flee, but I knew that God had a way.
Amen.
I knew that He had a path for me, and He did.
Amen.
And if you can see it, it's not faith. So Hebrews 11 verse 1 says, faith is the substance of things hoped for. It's the evidence of things not seen. If you can see it, it's not faith.
Yeah.
So faith is stepping out when you don't know what's ahead. And
Yep.
so that's what I had to do. And I have to tell you, I think it's one of the best decisions I made. I hesitated for a few months because I thought, what am I going to do? When am I going to get 7 beds? Where am I going to get a washing machine? Do you know that? But you know, it gets to the point where you're not thinking about washing machines or beds. You're just out.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm glad that you had faith and you stepped forward, because my mom used to tell me faith is where your eyes fail you and your ears can't hear. and sometimes you have to really, really dig deep and stop believing in the lies that Satan has for
Yeah.
you. Where are you going to get those beds? And what are you
Yeah.
going to do with those washing machines?
And you know what else I used to think? But the lettuce is ready to pick and the roses are about to bloom. Well, you know, forget the roses, forget the lettuce. You're not even thinking about that.
Right. You'll grow some more.
You're actually getting out with your life, because he actually got a gun the night before I left, and I heard him get the bullets, and that was a very scary night for me. And I'm just so glad that he was so drunk he fell asleep before he did anything with it. So I lay thinking, this is too serious.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad it got that serious, because it got me out.
Yeah.
100%. Sometimes you need that extra nudge, you know?
Yeah. 100%.
Well, you know, I hear people say, stupid woman, why doesn't she leave? You know what I say? You don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like for a woman to actually just have to walk away from her home.
Yeah.
That's real hard.
Of course.
It's extremely hard.
To not know what's next, not know how you provide, take care of your children, you know? But you did the most incredible thing, and I know that your kids must praise
Yeah.
God for it every single day.
Well, I just saw my kids come alive. I saw their heads go up. I didn't realise what we were living under. And sometimes you don't till you're out.
Yeah.
And when I used to think, it's okay, you know, we're, at least I've got the kids and we've got, you know, you think that, but it just got so bad I got out. In fact, I saw my son James, he's only 15, he started to hold his head up, you know. I used to run in the morning to wake the kids and jump on the bed and tickle them, and I realised we weren't allowed to make a sound in the morning because he'd got to bed so late and he was so drunk. We had to tiptoe around the house, and I remember we'd have little kids stay, and I'd hear my kids say, shh, don't make, no, you can't make a noise. And when you're out, you start to see it. What is it?
It's like yeah.
What's the song? I can see clearly now. The rain is gone.
The rain is gone. First of all, I just want to praise God that you're out and that your kids are in a beautiful spot. I was talking to a young lady yesterday, and she was telling me that her boyfriend wants to lead her in a direction for faith, but she felt uncomfortable because she wanted to go in this direction with her faith. And I told her the wisest decision a woman can make is know that she serves first God and then her husband. And when that order is broken, there could be chaos and division, because I told her you should never love me more than you love Jesus Christ. Because if I do you wrong, then you could go and step beside me and go to our Father and he'll correct me. Vice versa. I lead this home, but he leads us.
Yes.
So there's levels to this, and when a man falls out of order, there could be chaos. And actually I was journaling this yesterday, In the gospel, it says a woman is a man's helper. But in Hebrew, the only time that they use this reference is with the Lord. So a woman is referenced the same way that Jesus is referenced, as a helper. So then I came to the conclusion that men get so comfortable with their woman being their backbone that they mistreat them. They take their anger out on them, or they get frustrated with them, or they take advantage of their kindness and their emotion to stay put. But it kind of highlighted the fact that Jesus says, love your wife like your church, because he's trying to show you how you treat your spouse, how you treat your wife would be how you treat your God.
Yes.
And so if a man is listening out there and he gets a little short, or a woman's out there and she's maybe in a situation that you're in, before even moving, I would pray about it, because I don't want to necessarily teach breaking of the home, but because a lot of women just want a reason to leave.
Yeah.
And a man just wants a reason to leave. I definitely would invite the Lord in. And if you feel in your heart like you did that it's time to raise your kids somewhere else, then it gives you grounds on leaving. I want to take a page back. So you're 25 years old. You're not doing the ear thing with the medicine. You learn from the nice lady next to you that's 80 years old. At the age of 26, you came to Christ. These worlds coming together as a whirlwind. What did the Lord do with you when you found him? Did he give you more wisdom?
It was a whirlwind, and he did give me more wisdom. And I found a verse. I found many, but one I found that I used a lot, it was Psalm 32, verse 8, where God says, I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way that thou shalt go. I will guide thee with mine eye. You can't get better than that.
No.
And how he taught me was not all at once. It was little by little by little. And often it was when the child was sick that I remember whooping cough went round all the children. My children, my friends' children, and they're coughing. So I went to my herb book and I found plantain, and it's grows everywhere, plantain. It's also called ribwort. So I made big pots of this tea, put a bit of lemon and honey in it, and got little teacups and fancy straws, and I just got the kids to drink till it's coming out their ears just about. Drink. And within a couple of weeks, whooping cough, which is called the 100-day cough, had healed.
That's
and all my friends, their kids are coughing, and they saying, what did you do? And I told them, but they were sad. You see, my kids just drank water, so when they got this tea with a bit of lemon and honey, wow, they thought they were the best thing since sliced bread, being able to have this.
Yeah.
Whereas my friends' kids, a lot of them had a lot of sugar drinks. Well, they're not going to drink this herb tea.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I had to distance myself from them so my kids wouldn't get it again.
Oh yeah.
Is that tough? Would you say that's the hardest part of being a mother in the footsteps that you're walking? Is that you're actually having to shelter your children from the world?
Well, in that respect, I actually didn't think about it till my first husband said, "I don't want you mixing with those people. You've cured your kids. I don't want them." But it sort of didn't bother me too much because I didn't really shelter my kids. I fed them very well. They knew the natural remedies because that's just what we did. Because I think that, they're going to mix there. They're going to live there. And if you've given your kids the right education, the right food, they work it out.
Yeah.
It's like we were in a shopping mall one day and Santa Claus and all these helpers came up trying to give my kids lollies. And my kids just shook their heads like this. And Santa looked at me and said, what's happening on? And I said, oh, they're allergic. And Santa and his helpers went, oh. And they looked at my kids and my kids went, oh. And my kids went away laughing. They thought it was a joke.
That's so cute. The kids lean in. They go, "Excuse me, sir, you're obese. I don't think you should be having sugar."
But it's wild when you give kids the knowledge and it's what they know. Then they'll instinctively make the right choices. Because they know better. It's like when you eat so well for so long and then all of a sudden you have junk food. It makes you sick. You crave to have something fresh.
That's right. That's why I say to the guests, we had blackberries growing all around the edge of the property, but the kids didn't eat them all day. But then at the end of the day, you know, getting a bit peckish, they'd start grazing amongst the blackberries and I'd go out and join them. But I'd feed them very well at breakfast and at lunch, so they're actually not looking for tidbits.
Yeah.
Because the fact is, the more sugar you eat, the more sugar you want.
Yeah.
But when you're eating a meal that's got good fibre, great proteins, healthy fats, you have the feeling of satiation, that's satisfaction. So you're actually not interested in picking or looking at other things.
Let's talk about this because I gained a lot of weight. When we signed up to be together, I was a lot more chiseled. And I would like to bring that back to my fiance. You know, I want that confidence where I take off my shirt and I got the nice abs, but my age caught up to me. And the fast food every day is not good.
Poor old age, it gets blamed for so many things.
I mean, I feel like when I was younger, I could eat like a legit.
I think it was your eating that got in the way, not you know what I mean?
Don't gang up on me. I know you two are the same.
We're not being up. You know, when I do the steam sauna with the other ladies, they say, if we're like this, well, we have abs like you.
Yeah.
And they're 20 years younger than me. So sorry, can't blame me.
All right. So talk to me. If
Talk to me.
Talk to me, please, because not making excuses, but I travel a lot, and the fast aspect of things is very convenient. And prepping your meals is a lot harder, and by the way, I'm spoiled because she's an amazing chef and she does cook healthy meals. But I only see a result when I'm on like keto. Do you know what keto is?
I do.
Do you like keto?
I do.
That's good.
But I'm a plant-based lady.
But
So
God says to eat meat,
Does he?
doesn't he?
There was no meat in the Garden of Eden because there's no death.
Yeah, but then after death we needed meat.
And then the problem is when we get to heaven, there'll be no meat because there'll be no death.
And I would love that. Don't get me wrong. When I see a cow, I don't want to eat him. I want to ride on top of his back and hug him and kiss him.
That's right. I think that if everyone that went keto had to kill the cow and make their own meat, they'd go to the lentils.
I am curious to know though, since you are plant-based, because I was vegetarian for almost 10 years, and then I decided to start eating fish and like seafood just last summer. So now I'm coming up on a year of eating seafood. And how do you feel about fish?
Well, can you get fish with no mercury? Very difficult.
What's mercury?
Mercury is a heavy metal, and mercury is a waste product from much industry, and that's how come.
Is that
they
true?
get
Is that
it.
a fear mongle?
No, it's not.
Oh, it's true.
It's not. It's like the Minamata Bay. Minamata Bay in about the 1970s, they noticed that in Japan, the cats were backflipping and then dying. They called it dancing cat disease. So they did post-mortem on the cat and found out that mercury had eaten out their brain cells and their nervous system. And there was an aluminium big factory, and it was pumping out into Minamata Bay mercury waste. And the fish, of course, were taking up. Well, what happens is mercury is a heavy metal. It sinks to the bottom of the sea. The seaweed, the crustaceans, little fish, bigger fish eat the little fish, big fish eat the big fish, etc., etc.
Right.
And one of the problems with mercury, apart from the fact that it's a neurotoxin, is that it's bioaccumulative. And what that means is it accumulates. So the bigger the fish, the higher the accumulation of mercury. And if someone's got silver fillings in their mouth, the mercury is going into their tissues, and the longer it's there, then you get neurological problems like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington's chorea, dementia. They're all diseases of a deterioration of the nerve cell, and that's what mercury is. It's a neurotoxin, meaning a brain cell poison.
Alzheimer's, isn't that they're saying that the study is showing that it's a different form of diabetes.
Yeah, they call it diabetes type 3 because with diabetes you get a blood sugar level rise and a blood sugar level drop. And when the blood sugar level drops, brain stops working because we've only got a 2-minute supply of glucose in the brain. So that's why they're calling it diabetes type 3. But there are many different causes to Alzheimer's. And about 150 years ago, it was almost unheard of.
And now it's just rapidly.
It's rampant. In fact, in Australia, 1,700 cases being diagnosed weekly.
Weekly, wow.
So how do I navigate through this? Because I feel like it's bad now, but our generation, when we're older, I feel like it's just like everybody's going to get hit with it.
Well, you got to get away from the mercury.
That's her. I only eat red meat. I love red meat. How do you feel about red meat?
It's only been a year.
How do you feel about red meat?
I don't eat it.
But how do you feel about it for me?
How do I feel? Well, do you know what I reckon? I reckon that God made everybody to be their own doctor. And if it works, do it. But I know that, like I've read the research, like Dr. Colin Campbell, and he could switch cancer cells on and off by the amount of meat and dairy he was giving his patients. But I also know, or his cats, his rats. But I also know that there's people that go onto the keto diet and they do so well.
So well.
You know, you have to listen to that. And we had a guest, 15 years ago, as a businessman. He said, "You're not going to like this, Barbara, but I go on the Atkins diet, I go so well," which is sort of like the keto diet, one of the original keto diets. He said, "I go off the keto diet, I go down. Now, I've got to listen to that because the best health professional will listen to you." So I thought, why? Why does this man go down? And it's because this high carbohydrate diet. If someone's on a high carbohydrate diet and they go the other extreme to keto, they go really well, because one of the problems today, one of the causes of obesity, rising cancer, heart disease, huge weight gain, is this carbohydrate diet because it stores as fat.
So more carbs causes problems?
Yeah.
Because they're sugars, right?
Is it because
Well-
of our process? Like, for example, if I go to Australia, and this sounds like a joke, but I'm not being funny. I went to Australia and I was working, so I only had fast food. And I called Belle. I'm looking in the mirror, and I was shredded. And I was like, "Belle, I've been eating fast food for a week and a half out here, and I look better than when I was trying to eat clean in America." How would that happen?
Well, I would need to analyse what you're eating.
I had KFC and Burger King. Like literally the two worst, like, but I think that the way that you guys handle your food versus America, I feel like the bread here is not even real anymore. The cheese is
Well,
not
the
real.
bread in Australia is not real. And yeah, that's what you'd have to look at. You have to look at what you're eating, how long you're eating it for, your activity. But a lot of people eat like this: cereal and toast for breakfast, sandwiches for lunch, pasta for tea, cakes, donuts, biscuits, cookies, mid-morning, mid-afternoon. That's high carbohydrate.
That's me.
High carbohydrate causes high glucose release, and the body cannot deal with it all, so it's got to dump it as a visceral fat, usually on the belly, and that's why Dr. William Davis, he called his book Wheat Belly.
I have a really bad gut, and not to get any like too personal with you,
Yeah.
but my stool does not look good at all.
Yeah.
It's
Well-
been years since I've had a pretty good solid stool.
Well, what I find is the hardest thing for me to teach is to get people to listen to their bodies. You got to listen to their bodies. If it works, do it. If it doesn't work, you got to keep adjusting till it does work.
Well, it seems like with him, and just from my observation of seeing him eat, and when he goes off gluten, he loses all his inflammation.
Yeah.
As soon
Oh.
as he eats gluten, he has all this inflammation. His joints hurt,
My back hurts. Like
Well,
my hands hurt, they swell up.
Well, Dr. William Davis has done a real good job in his book of showing what they've done to the wheat. You know, that song, "What Have They Done to My Song, Ma?" Well, what have they done to the wheat?
Yeah.
They've hybridized it. It's not the wheat that God made.
It's not the same wheat in Europe, like in
No.
France and in Italy.
What
it's
happens?
grown differently.
Can we order it from other countries and like?
Well, you can get spelt. You can get spelt. Spelt is a wild hybrid from the original grain. So you've probably heard of ancient grains. Ancient grains are the wheat and the wheat. They're almost wheat. When I say almost wheat, the original wheat did a wild hybrid. And because it was a wild hybrid with a field grass, it's still okay. But when man comes in and starts adjusting and playing with it, that's what's caused all the problems. It caused the starch structure to change. It caused the protein or the gluten structure to change. And so that's what's caused all the problems. That's all your gluten intolerance, which we never heard of 60 years ago.
Right.
And it all came along about the time it was hybridized. So Dr. Norman Bulag got a Nobel Prize in 1976 for the hybridized wheat. They wanted to create a plant with a high yield of grain to help with the starvation crisis. But they never addressed what the effect of that hybridized wheat was on the human body. They rushed it through with no safety studies, sounding familiar, rushed it through, but only now are they starting, only now are they starting to see the problems. And the problems we're seeing is the gluten intolerance, the weight gain, obesity, and the diabetes explosion.
I think this is done on purpose. I think that there's two obvious looks at it. It's like, one, they rushed it and they wanted to solve hunger, which to me, and this might, I might get like people upset at this, but if you work at the food establishments, they toss food away like it's nothing. You go to like a Dunkin' Donuts and they're throwing bread away like it's nothing. I don't think it was I think the portions, I think we could have helped with hunger without trying to rapidly grow.
Absolutely. You know, we could have helped with education. You know, Bill Mollison of the permaculture, he went into African countries and showed them how to grow sweet potatoes, showed them how to grow hedges instead of chopping all their trees down to build fences. It's education.
Yep. Teach your men to fish instead of fish for him.
That's right.
And,
So I'm sorry.
no, sorry.
Do you think they did that so that the pharmaceuticals could give more medicine out? They caused the problem to give
Well, I guess we see that happening. They cause the problem, then they come along with the solution. But, you know, history quickly shows it's no solution at all, but it was a money spinner.
What were we talking about?
Oh, I just wanted to, because it was, but now you brought it back to this. But anyways, because you speak a lot on lentils, and you're speaking when he brought up meats, and you kind of brought up lentils for a second. And I want to know, what is it about lentils that you find so great, so powerful?
Lentils, see, grain is high in fibre, high in protein, but high in carbohydrate. But the beauty of the legumes, the beans, is they're high in protein, but they're only medium to low in carbohydrate. So they're a superior food to bring those carbohydrate levels down. I eat beans every meal. Now, if someone says, my gut bloats,
I have a very bad gut.
so
It bloats.
I say, well, is it because they're not soaked? Is it because they're not rinsed? Or is it because you don't have the microorganisms for lentils? Did you know that there's a different microorganism for every lentil, every legume? Did you know that there's a different microorganism for every single different type of vegetable? And so it's quite possible that you need to just build up your microorganisms for the lentil. So how you do that is you start eating a teaspoon of lentils, and then after a week, 2 teaspoons of lentils. And then little by little, your microorganisms that your gut develops for the lentil, they start to grow. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Wow, yeah. Because when we walked in, your grandchildren were also there having their lentils for breakfast. And I've heard you speak about them, and I'm like, I need to know what's so powerful about lentils. I got to get on this.
Speaking of diet, I feel like diet kind of like, when we travel a lot for work, and this time around I've been eating a lot less carbs, and I've been working out a lot more concentrated, especially on cardio. And this trip was so much more easier on my body and my brain. I get a lot of brain fog. I do blame it on the marijuana at night. And by the way, I'm not doing 30 joints. I'm doing half a joint before bed.
Yeah, well, that's a relief.
No, for real. Yeah. I don't know. My mother and father would never let that happen. So I wanted to jump into this conversation. There's a company from Australia. It's called Life Cycle, and they create mushroom droplets. And I've been taking lion's mane and cordyceps and Belle, help me out. Chaga. Shiitake. Reishi, like for like rest. What are your thoughts on mushrooms? Is it like a placebo, or is it like something that you've studied and you're like, no, mushrooms are something that you should get involved in?
Well, mushrooms are very interesting. They're not plant, they're not animal.
They're fungus.
Yeah, they're fungus.
Yeah.
And do I eat them? Yeah, I eat them sometimes. Do they help in the way and in the form that you're taking? I don't know, because it's not an area that I've gone into.
Yeah.
So I can't really comment on that.
No worries. I just wanted to know. Because I'm trying to figure out a way to get rid of my brain fog and my fatigueness.
Two of the most common symptoms of a gluten intolerance is brain fog and bloating. And what's interesting about this is you can have a slice of bread, it'll be out of your body in 24 hours, hopefully less, but the effect can remain for up to 2 months. So if you're going to do an experiment on yourself, and I suggest everyone do, because you're the doctor,
60
try
days.
and see what it, 60 days, and see. And if you're not sure after that, have a slice of bread, watch. Your body will quickly tell you. We used to have this cook. He's actually returned and he's our cook at the moment. His name's Zach, Fijian boy. He's been working for us on and off since he's 15. He's 29 now. And I could tell when he was eating wheat because he's fallen asleep all the time.
Yeah,
And he's yawning, and I'd say to Zach, "Are you eating wheat?" And he'd go,
Wow.
But, you know, I did a function with him a few years after that, and he had a slice of wheat bread. I said, "Can you eat that?" He said, "Today, but not tomorrow, or the next day, or the next day." So I thought, wow, he's 19 and he's worked out. If he has it maybe twice or 3 times a week, his body says, I can handle that. But anymore he can't. So it's a matter of listening. And I find that this is one of the hardest things that I have to do, is to teach people to listen. So I'll have a whole audience in front of me and I'll say, "Have you ever been to a doctor who won't listen to you?" And 80% are nodding. And I say, "Don't be that doctor." Then they'll go quiet.
That's so true.
So listening to you, I do feel like keto is something that I should probably take seriously. Now, after having this conversation, I should probably get off of like the bread, especially because it really does affect me. I do feel the effect of it. And I'm not, now when you said listen to your body, I wanted to listen to my body. I guess my fear, which is not good, my fear is I see people that are on a vegetation type of diet and they're bald.
Oh, I know. I tell you, most vegetarians would turn you off vegetarianism. And I've been to some places, and of course they serve all the vegetarian food, and I think, oh no, because a lot of it I can't eat, because I eat a very low carbohydrate diet. I eat a plant-based keto diet. So what do? Let me give you an illustration. So for breakfast I'll have fruit. I'm at Emma's house and she's got some beautiful cherries and peaches, and I'll dip all of those in chia seed and have some almonds, and then I'll have a slice of sourdough bread, and I think the sourdough bread she's got at the moment is a local one with rye in it. Then I'll have olive oil, then I'll have avocado, cayenne pepper, and then black-eyed beans. That was my breakfast this morning. So you see, that's quite low carbohydrate.
But you had bread.
Yeah, but the sourdough increases the protein, and I didn't have 10 slices.
Got it. You had
And
one
it's
slice.
sourdough and it's rye.
Yeah.
Wheat doesn't affect me, but if wheat did affect me, I wouldn't touch it. But you can get some really nice, like Simple Needs, that beautiful sourdough gluten-free bread, and you can get that anywhere.
Okay.
In fact, it's a friend of mine, Tristan, he put it together for his son because his son had allergies. He's now baking 6,000 to 8,000 loaves a day. It's the most beautiful.
How hungry is he?
So, yeah. So wherever I go, 3 or 4 days ahead, I get on to Tristan. He said, "Wherever you go, I'll send my bread there." In America.
I love it.
Because if the food's not great, and it's often just too many carbohydrates, I can always have fruit, this bread, olive oil, avocado. And that's what I show people. Fat doesn't make you fat. It's this high carbohydrate diet that's the problem.
Yeah.
The body just can't deal with it all, so it has to store it as fat.
So you wouldn't touch a fast food joint ever?
Probably the only one is Chipotle.
Chipotle?
Yeah.
What about In-N-Out?
In-N-Out, what's that?
It's a burger joint. Would you
No.
ever have with me a burger, fries, and a Coca-Cola?
Sorry.
Never?
Sorry.
Would you look at me like, dude, get this poison away from me?
I don't want to offend you, but I wouldn't join you.
I appreciate it. You're not offending me at all. How do you, okay, so question. So with moderation, sodas, beverages like Mountain Dew, Pepsi, Coke, are these stuff that are like you would give your kids once in a while? Or is it like, dude, if I catch you drinking that, you're drinking bleach after?
Sorry, laugh too much. No, I'd never give it to them because I know it's poison. I'd say, I love you too much.
What? You're punished. Come here, drink this Coke.
Yeah, right.
But Mom, I don't want to. Drink it.
So, what are your 9 pillars of health?
9 pillars of health. Number 1 is sunshine. Sadly, the television tells you to keep away from it, but it is the doctor in the sky, and we need more.
Amen. So you don't believe in sunscreen?
Never.
Can I tell you something? That I have a problem with Australia.
Yeah.
I went to Bondi Beach, and I get outside, okay, and I go. Some guy goes, "Here, take some sunscreen," and I said, "You get that cancer water away from me, okay? I'm not touching that death, okay?" But 3 hours later, I was getting rushed to the emergency room because I had sun poisoning, and it felt. Have you ever been cooking and oil touches your skin? Imagine that over your head on your body. I was screaming. I literally asked God to take my life because it was so bad. It was probably the worst experience I've ever had. Now I'm kind of like, dude, I would rather put on the sunscreen. But then I'm getting mixed emotions in my heart because I feel like they're blocking. They're trying to.
Let me clear it for you.
Thank you.
Let me
please.
clear the highway for you. So we've just been in Phuket. We ran a pilot program in Phuket because I can't talk in Australia. Let's try Phuket. We had 53 guests. It was very successful. We'll probably do it again next year. So I go out to sunbake. I don't have sunscreen. I have my watch. 15 minutes front, 15 minutes back under the umbrella.
Under the umbrella.
Yeah.
Take
So,
shade.
so you don't get the actual sun on you?
That's right. No, 15 minutes front, 15 minutes back, then under the umbrella.
Oh, then under umbrella. Okay, gotcha.
So you just have
gotcha.
to be cautious of time. If you're going to be outside, spend a little
Yeah,
time and then get the
don't
shade.
take your sunscreen, take your watch. And by the end of the week, I was golden brown. And then I can be out there for half an hour, maybe an hour. So I don't want to offend you, but a bit of common sense is necessary.
You know, I'm lacking some of that. I think, honestly, it's the processed food that got to me. I think they took my common sense.
It was the
Mercury
wheat.
got the fish, In-N-Out got my brain.
Yeah, the fish, the wheat, that's what did it.
Yep. I have brain fog right now. I apologize.
Because you've got olive skin.
I did, but what happened is I ran away from the sun like they wanted me to, and I was just inside gaming.
Yeah.
But then my Middle Eastern became Caucasian. And then
Yeah.
I went outside, and then my credit score went up, but then I burned like really, really bad.
Yeah. You will burn, even olive skin will burn if you never have the sun and then you have the sun.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. I don't use sunscreen, but I just get it little by little. And you can't get a tan in a day.
Yeah. Well, I can. It's because of my people. But
Yeah.
you
But
can
so
take a
as-
15
but
minutes
not
to
3
15
hours.
minutes. No.
So as you build, is it the melanin in your skin? As you build
Yeah.
your tan, then
Yeah.
you can spend more time?
That's right.
That's
That's
so
right.
interesting.
And the darker the skin, the more sun you need.
Right.
All right. So we got first step is sun.
Sun, use of water. And the reason why it's use of water is that the best time to drink is when you wake up in the morning between meals. The worst time is with your meals because you dilute your gastric juices. So that's use of water. There's a time to drink, there's a time not to drink. And use of water meaning water therapies. So alternating hot and colds. We talked about the steam sauna,
Yeah.
the ice cold dunk.
Yep.
So the water can be used as steam, can be used as water, can be used as ice.
Let's
So-
take a step because I know you educated me on some stuff that I never even knew and I was doing it wrong. You said between steam and sauna, you'd recommend steam because the water can moisturize your skin and kind of attack a little
Yeah.
bit better. And then you're saying you do 15 minutes steam, then cold water. Then you go do that 3 times, and then you end with cold to not get chills and to have your body circulate your blood.
Yeah, it equalises circulation.
Yeah.
Equalises circulation, prevents chilling, closes the pores. So that's why the cold is necessary. A lady said to me one day, "Barbara, I'm happy to do the steam but not the cold." I said, "Well, I'm terribly sorry you can't do the steam." Because the only time we've had a lady faint was when she wouldn't do the cold.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, and we had this young girl, staff member, she's calling out, "Howard, help!" And this lady's fainted on her shoulder. And I talked to a lady because I'm an investigator, because there's always a reason. And I said, "How many colds did you have?" She said, "Oh, I didn't have the cold." And cold air won't do what cold water does.
No.
Water is the best conductor of hot and colds.
Yeah.
So there's your, and people fear fevers. Well, we create fevers every day in our gas with the steam sauna because the fever boosts circulation, it boosts your immune system, and that high heat burns out any pathogens that may be in the body. And fever's been used as a treatment for cancers, serious diseases all through Europe for thousands of years.
We were just speaking about how 5 times a week could reduce cancer by like around 70%.
Yeah, it's impressive because of what it does to the immune system.
I mean, it makes sense. God created our bodies, and when our bodies are in trouble, what happens? It heats up.
That's right. That's
so
right.
I feel like we try to mimic whatever the Lord is doing.
Yep. So it's great. So there's your use of water. The next one is sleep.
Dude, this is so funny. It's literally like back to back to back, all the things I do wrong. So sleeping, I don't sleep until 4 in the morning. So I'm guessing you're probably going to get mad at me with that.
Well,
I'm a walking contradiction from what she wants me to be.
Yeah, you're getting away with it now, but the day comes.
Yeah, but I don't want to blame age, right? We don't want to blame age.
We're such night owls. Like at night, we just get a spur of energy and we just want to like hang out and do stuff. But I've been telling him lately, I'm like, it's catching up to me now. I can't do it anymore, George. Like I gotta go to bed. I just can't. I can't stay up.
So what do you recommend
Well-
for a good sleep?
Well, people ask me my secrets, how I've got so much energy at my age, but then they don't want to know.
Oh man. Okay, so the sleep. Okay. So 2 questions. 1, what is the recommended amount? And then 2, how do you get a man or a woman that has insomnia or problems sleeping? How do you help them regulate their sleep?
Well, there's this great book called Sustain Me, and I've got a whole chapter in there on sleep. But let me give you God's perfect mathematical formula. 8 hours to work, 8 hours to play, 8 hours to sleep. Got that?
8 hours to play? I heard that and I was like, God is so nice. So explain this to me. It's 8 hours of work is the first, and is that right when the morning hits, like when the sun rises? Is that what you're?
Well, I play a bit first.
Okay, I like this. Now we're catching a flow going. So you play first.
Yeah, I play
And do you do that for
first.
your mind?
Well, this is my routine. I wake up in the morning, and the first thing I do is I surrender my life to God. I say,
Amen.
Father, I need you today.
Amen.
Especially with 6 kids, then 2 more, and especially with my 5th child being dyslexic, I need God.
I pray there's many, 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 many more women like you.
And then I always read the Bible. I'm reading a beautiful book at the moment on the story of Jesus, so I'm playing. Here's my play.
Okay.
And then I run up and down hills. And then last week when I was in South Dakota, I found this ice cold mountain stream. So I ran up and down hills and dunked in the mountain stream. Do you know, by the end of the week, I had 5 ladies joining me.
Were you collecting them as you were running up the hill?
Well, out of 90, but 5, anyway, 5's better than none.
Yeah.
And so that's all so much play. And then I get into my kitchen when I'm at home and make the most beautiful food. I'm still playing.
Do you eat first before playing? Or do you fast?
No. I play first because if I eat, all my body's energies want to go to digestion. And we've got this amazing system in our cell, it's called glycogen. They're little molecules of glucose sitting in our muscle cell. And when we start running up and down hills and diving into water, those glycogen stores are getting used. And if they all get used up, well then the human growth hormone's released and our fat stores start getting broken down. So you don't need to eat before you work out, but you need to be hydrated.
Now, do you work out first thing in the morning?
Yep.
So I wake up, I spend time with the Lord.
Yep.
I love that, by the way.
Yep.
My mom used to always tell me, she told me when I was young, she goes, I won't need to tell you, she goes, but experience it for yourself. And I pray that you guys do journal this. You should always journal when you're going through things so you could document, because we forget. But my goodness, if I'm having a really bad day, it's because of me. It's not because of my surroundings. I didn't ask the Lord to come with me. I could take the craziest day and have the best time doing it because the Lord goes before me. But then I'll have an easy day by myself and everything just starts crumbling down. So I really am proud of you and thank you for sharing that. So I start my morning with the Lord. I put the armor of God on, and then I start playing. I run around, jump in some water, jump into some steam.
Yeah, have some beautiful food. People say, you're such a good cook, Barbara. I say, yeah, that's because I like eating.
So true.
And I want the food to taste magnificent. Do you know all my kids are brilliant cooks? I had them cooking from 8 years of age. And I'll go somewhere, you know, we'll all be together, and I'll hear James, who's 45, saying to Julia, who's 38 or something, he'll say, Julia, have you tried mortar and pestling the basil for pesto instead of blending it? Have you tried? And I hear them talking about this.
They're like little chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So Jesus, play,
Yep.
food,
Yep.
and then is this where you start working now?
It's really hard to say what's work because I just love my work. My play and my work gets all mixed up.
Got it. Okay, got it. Okay, because I was curious about this because I know when you wake up, your brain is at its best possible stage.
It is.
So the creativity is flowing. That's why
And-
I try to stay away off of technology in the morning
Good.
because I don't want to waste my energy learning other people's crap.
Good.
I'd rather study myself and
And here's a test to see where your allegiance lies. What's the first thing you do when you wake up? Is
I
it
pray,
or
always.
look at your phone?
I would never touch my phone without praying. First of all, like I'm so grateful to God that like when I open my eyes, like I wouldn't be honest. Like when I had my relationship with God, the higher up I go with my Lord, the more that I look at myself and I'm like, I'm a hypocrite. I'm selfish. I'm jealous. There's so much of myself that I didn't think I have. But I've been praying this with the Lord. I go, Lord, I always forget the miracles you give me in my life.
Oh, yeah.
I forget.
Oh, yeah.
So He's given me wisdom to be very grateful.
And he's the one that can help all that stuff.
Well, he's a
the
gentleman.
beauty
He's
of
waiting
it.
for. He is the doctor of
right.
all doctors. So
That's
if you
right.
have a mental illness, if you have any type of illness, I know that a lot of people are like, how dare you? I grew up with it. Listen, shut up. Shut up. Bring it to the Lord. My God brought people from the dead. I think your headaches will go away. You know what I mean? Like
That's right.
there's things that they try to install in me, and I just won't have it. I won't have it.
Yeah.
So we have first sun. The second is water. The third is get up, play, eat, clean.
Yeah.
And the fourth is, because we're going to your 9 pillars.
Yeah, well, fourth, sleep. Sleep's important.
Yeah.
And also, trusting God.
Okay.
Trusting God, so that's first. And trusting God really means faith.
Yep.
I don't know what this day's going to hold, but I know that God won't put me through anything I can't cope with, and He'll also make a way of escape if it gets a bit tough. So God always has a way through it. It's like going to the airport when I came here from Rapid City. The lady said $150, you know, your bag's way over. And I said, but I'm platinum and frequent flyer. And then this lady comes up and goes, oh, Barbara Neal, I can't believe it. I watch you all the time. And then she looks at that lady, goes to the computer and said, I'll fix it, I'll work it out.
You're like,
I
thank you,
love
Jesus.
that.
And I didn't have to pay anything. And I shouldn't have to because I'm Delta Platinum, but it just hadn't come up on the screen. So isn't it incredible how God's timing is perfect? You know, Ecclesiastes chapter 3 says, to everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. So that's what you got to remember. In your day, there is a time for every purpose.
I was telling people this, reaping and sowing, people just think, well, I reap what I sow, but people want to reap one thing and then sow another thing, and it doesn't work that way. Ask a farmer, he doesn't plant a watermelon and get squash.
He's dyslexic. It
Yeah.
should be sow one thing, reap another.
Thank you. Let's talk about dyslexia, because you have a child that is
I just
dyslexic.
love dyslexias.
Yeah,
I raised a child, and, you know, when he was 5, he said, Mum, how come what we see is so big and our eyes are so little? I thought, ooh, that's a different brain. Mum, where does the light go when we turn the switch off? This boy had questions that no kid has ever asked me, and he could fix anything. If my washing machine broke down, he could just fix it. And he could just build things, and I just thought that's what boys do.
Right.
But a man took me aside one day and he said, no, Barbara, there's something different about that kid.
Was it the gentleman that I met inside?
No, that's my grandson.
Was that his son?
No,
Got it.
that's my eldest daughter who had the earache. That's her son.
So dyslexia to you was at first like it was complicated. Same with me and my family.
Well,
We didn't.
it was. I remember Peter just didn't know colours. And all my kids knew colours at 4. And I remember one day we decided to just concentrate on yellow all day. Yellow lemon, yellow this, yellow that. And at the end of the day we picked up a lemon and we said, okay, tell Dad what colour this is. And he went, green.
Wow.
Dude, this is why I was in resource class.
And playing I Spy. I spy something beginning with T, and all the kids are trying everything, and we'd say, what is it? He'd go, road.
Poor kid. I know exactly what that feels
but
like.
But you know that I am so glad that he was homeschooled, because I could see his value. I could see this kid's diligence is his second name. So at 15, he does a spelling test. He's so diligent in his schoolwork, and 80% is wrong. And he'd come and say, how'd I go, Mum? And I'd say, oh, not too bad, Pete. How can I tell him? He's just worked so hard at this spelling test. So what I did was I put him into tiling.
Thailand?
Tiling.
I was like, geez, man.
No, I kept him.
Go
with
to
me
another
tiling.
country, come back when you learn.
No, it became, because you could, because he could so good with his hands, but you could get into tiling or bricklaying without any qualifications.
Yeah.
And I thought tiling's got a bit of finesse. Well, he was offered 4 apprenticeships after 4 months because he's so brilliant with his hands, and he became Brisbane's top tiler. This is after a few years. He just excelled. I knew he would excel, but it was interesting. He did carpentry then, and he's about 18, and I said, how are you going, Pete? This is because 2 years in school. He said, took me a while to get it, but I finally got it. And I'd say, are you the smartest kid in the class? He'd say, no, there's another kid, but he needs a calculator. So I knew that he would excel because he was so diligent. And eventually, at the age of 19, I read a book called The Gift of Dyslexia. And I thought someone had studied Peter and written a book about him.
Yeah.
And that's where I discovered that dyslexias never see letters. They only see pictures, but they actually see in dimensions. That's why their minds are brilliant. So they're not the dunce of the class, they're actually the genius of the class because they see everything in dimension. So when Peter began to surf, he just stood up and surfed. You can't do that. So they're particularly good at memory, they're particularly good at music, they're particularly good at memory. Because I said to him once, Peter, how come you can read? Because you can't get a dyslexic to sound out words because they see dimensional pictures. He said, I've just memorised every word, the shape of the word.
Wow.
I never actually said this when I was when I first started acting. My biggest fear was like reading in front of people, because when I was a kid, like even though like I'm a grown man, but when I read in front of people, it just haunts me from the feeling that I had when I was a child. And one day I asked the director, I said, hey, can I have the script before we go into the table read, because we had to read in front of people. And they thought I was the most brilliant reader because I was acting while I was reading. I was looking down, but I was actually pretending because the night before I memorized the script. So I was pretending like I was reading and I was being so theatrical, and they were just like, you're an amazing reader. So for a while I was kind of like lying because I never once, in fact, one girl almost caught me because they already flipped their pages and I'm looking down at the wrong page reading and she flipped my page for me and looked at me, and so she caught on. But like, yeah, it's so funny you bringing all this up, because when I was younger I knew that I was very different from everybody, but I always had faith in God because my mom, and I think that's and I really hope that a mother out there is listening. If you're dealing with a child that's like lacking in the moment, and your teachers are giving you a lot of fear, and God forbid the doctors are trying to put stuff in them, and they're just trying to guide your kid, I really would first pray and get your wisdom from God on where your first step with your child should be, because my mom did that with me, and I think I wouldn't be where I was if she didn't put faith in me.
Yeah.
And that to me was like a huge cemented foundation for me, that any hurdle that I had, I trusted on the Lord and I was able to excel. I was able to tell that mountain, get up and go this way.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of the way you're outspoken with the Lord, because it's I love that I send my mother your notes of you on the whiteboard and explaining things, but it fills my heart more with joy when I see a godly, God-fearing woman leading other households to be in this type of mindset, because I do believe that Jesus is the healer of all healing, and he put that wisdom in you, and now you're putting that wisdom. You're a disciple in your own field.
1,000,000%.
Yeah,
Well, I have to tell you one experience with Peter where God gave me wisdom. He's 9. He knows all his letters, his words, and I'm with James doing long division. James about 8 years old. It's pretty intense. And Pete says, "Mum, what's this word?" And I say to James, "Just give me a minute." So I go over and look at the word. It's the. I've told him the 10,000 times. And so my emotions are going, oh. And my emotions are going, when is this kid going to get it? I had to leave long division for the. but of course, God's speaking to my mind saying, and how's he going to feel if you say that? I didn't have to tell the other kids this many times. How's he going to feel if you say that? So you see, I'd given my heart to God, and God was faithfully speaking, holding me back. My emotions are strong. And I knew what God was saying to me was all true, because this kid was my best worker, this kid. So I breathed deeply and said, Peter, and walked away. And Peter goes, "Oh," as if I've never told him.
Can I ask you, how was he after that? Did he learn the word "the" then?
No.
But it's incredible because you didn't actually learn what dyslexia was until he was 19.
No.
Wow.
So
you just.
So when
So you thought he was, no disrespect to him, did you think he was mentally challenged? Because that's
No.
what they thought with me.
No, because he was so brilliant. Like, how come our eyes are so little and what we see is so big? How do you answer that? So I knew he was a thinker. And so when I read about it, I realised why he didn't know there's no picture for the. There's no
Right.
picture. There's a picture for ball, there's a picture for flower, but there's no picture for the. So what in this book they said, when you're teaching dyslexics you put the with the ball, the rose, and by association
They'll know what
you
that is.
Wow.
you can teach them that. So that, and I'm so glad he was my 5th child, not my first child.
Oh.
I thought I knew everything with my first 4, then Peter hit.
Peter was actually supposed to be the second one. God's like, actually, just let me put this guy back here. Did you purposely name them after the disciples?
No.
They just came out, and you're like, Peter, James,
they were names
Simon.
I loved, and Peter was his father's name.
Got it.
So I did that for his father, but I also really, really liked Peter. But let's fast forward now. Peter's, whatever he touches, he does very well. But 2021, I said to Peter, how do you get your equipment, for tiling and building if you can't go into Bunnings? Bunnings is this great big store that sells stuff that builders use. I said, how do you get in there if you can't get in unless you wear a mask? He says, I just walk in as if I own the place. And he's built big, he's muscly. He just marches in.
They're like, sir,
Good for him. He has
sir,
good
do you not
confidence.
see the sign? It says mask. Sorry, I'm dyslexic. I didn't see that. I didn't even read it. What's the? You know what the's?
So interesting because it's just when you're explaining it, it's just like Georgie. Like you're saying, he picked up surfing and he was able to just do it. Like Georgie can
Yeah.
pick up things so quickly. Like sports, he's really good at. He did this kickball tournament. And had you even ever played kickball before?
When I was like in 6th grade.
But he won the tournament for them, and he's playing with like athletes. Like it's incredible.
And
so.
you know what it is. And
Thanks
and
for that, by the way.
forgive me
Appreciate
if
it.
I'm wrong. Dyslexics are already using this different dimension to plan the kick, to plan the move, to plan they've planned it all in their mind before they do it, and that's why they execute it so well.
Oh yeah, he's
Dude,
always 9
it's-
steps ahead.
It's so weird that you're saying. I feel like you're just speaking into my heart. Reed was the first one. That's Reed right there. He was the first one to ever tell me. He goes, "I've never met a man who reflects as much as you." And the reason I reflect is because I see patterns. So when I don't necessarily see the future, but I see the options of where it could go.
Yeah, that's the dimensions.
Yeah. And to be honest, that like, I think, and I don't want to see cheesy when I say this. I think God designs you in a certain way.
That's right.
And
That's right.
I really do feel that all of us could excel so much more if we really came to our Creator. A lot of people have identity issues in so many ways. And so my thing for them is, the reason you probably don't know who you are or where you're going to be or what your passion is or what you're good at is because you are the creation, yet you've never entered the presence of the Creator.
That's right. That's right. And who knows better than He? And that's why once you know Him, you don't have fear because you know that He knows.
Yeah.
He knows where I'm going. He knows what is next. So when I came into America 2022, they didn't abolish the vaccine past till May,
Yeah.
and I had 2 months' work planned, and I came in early February with no vaccine pass.
Perfect timing.
And well, I wasn't supposed to get in.
Yeah.
It wasn't abolished till May.
Oh yeah.
I had an exemption from an Irish doctor, but they've got every right to say we don't accept that.
Yeah.
So I come up to the immigration, and they've already said, have your vaccine pass ready. You're going to have your vaccine pass to get in. And I hear the guy, where's your vaccine pass? Why are you coming to America? They really drill you. Now, fear can easily flutter, but God says, I've not given you the spirit of fear.
Amen.
And I think, what's the worst that can happen? They'll send me home. They're not going to torture me. They're not going to shoot me. They're just going to send me home. I can handle that. So it's like following your fears and saying, well, what are you afraid of? Anyway, praise God, the next guy opens up and he calls me over. And he says, what's your reason for coming to the US? I'm coming to see my daughter. She's been living in America for 20 years and she's got 6 children. And she's just had another child. And the eldest one's got a grandchild now. So I'm a grandmother now. Chat. He stamps the passport, gives it to me and says, have a good stay.
Amen. Amen.
He did not even ask me for my vaccine pass.
I try to explain the relationship with God as this. Like, I tell Belle this. I go, I don't fear if other people walk in with their demons because their demons have to check out at my door. Because darkness cannot live where light is.
That's right.
So if you have a dark mindset about something, believe it or not, I know this sounds cheesy, but when you are in fear, you're worshiping Satan. And so you're giving him freedom to
That's
run
right.
around and play,
That's right.
give you diseases, separation of friends and family,
That's right.
causes you to be egotistical, maybe hypocritical, got you only seeing your own issues, your own problems, me. But then you invite the Lord in, and now it's bright, and now the first thing you see is all your issues, and you're like, oh man, I'm a mess. Wait, hold on, I've walked around life this bad? You're like, well, because God moonwalked you out of the room with your problems. So now I have this great faith, is I no longer have faith in myself anymore. I'm a mess. I'm a pile of dirt that could talk. But if you welcome the Lord in any circumstance at any point, only light could exist. So when you walked in that one moment, the devil got you. Hey, they're going to send you back. And you're thinking this. And I believe a lot of people say, oh, speaking into the universe, you can manifest it. I believe we're made in his image and he created stuff with his voice. That's why everything's in vibration. In the beginning was the word. He spoke it into existence. We're like him. So what are you speaking to existence? Go hang out with people that are depressed. They're just talking about how depressed they are all day. You go hang out with somebody who's excited about life. They're talking about how excited about life they are. So I've really gotten into the habit of practicing to change my own mind. If I say something bad in my head, I'll say 3 positive things right after that.
Well, you're going to love this verse. It's Philippians 3:13. Forgetting the things which are behind, I reach forth to the things which are before. I press towards the mark for the high calling of God in Christ Jesus.
Amen.
Isn't that a beautiful verse?
Beautiful.
Yeah, stuff's happened. Let it go. Leave it behind. There's better things ahead. But many people bring that horrible, smelly painful stuff into today. No.
100%.
just-
And you soak in it, because when you reflect back on a hurtful past and you go, oh, I've been hurt this way and this has happened to me and this has happened to me, you're just constantly reliving the thing that hurt you, right?
I think everything is perspective too. I recently went through the hardest years of my life, and out of that, I didn't just go, well, that was for no reason. I said, no. Pressure makes diamonds, and you could forge things in the fire. My Lord is generous, so he gave me this problem enough for me to deal with, the same way that your child had problems, enough for you to go knock on the door next door.
I'll give you a funny story. I don't know if this happened to you, but it happened to Peter at 10 months. We went to the beach. He just kept crawling into those waves. Straight into the waves.
It's because they're beautiful.
And I'd pick him up, put him right up the top of the beach, and he turned around and he'd crawl straight back into the waves. Most kids are running from the waves. So you know what I decided to do? I'm just going to stand there and see how far he goes. I thought it was time he had picked him up and got him out again. I've never seen a baby do that.
It's curious.
So I knew it was a different brain, and a mother knows, you know, and so often, very sad, like both your mothers did not want to give you those drugs,
Yeah.
but they didn't know what else to do. And I've been in that situation. So now I want to be that voice that says, try this.
Yep.
Try that. You don't have to do this. So there's only one reason I'm glad for my explosion on the internet is that more will hear this, more will have my little handbook on natural remedies, and more mothers will be rescued from that horrible situation of, I don't want to give my child a drug, but I don't know what to do.
1,000,000%. Your
Amen.
knowledge is such a gift. Like, I can't even tell you how much of a gift it is that what you are doing for people. Because so many people don't even know. They don't even
don't.
realize that this is out there, or it's even an option, you know?
They don't. And when Michael said to me in 2019 when they banned me, and as I often say, how can there be a crime if there's no victim?
Yeah.
He said, well, you're retirement age, you could retire, or you could just go overseas. And I said, I'll go overseas because I've never had so much information in my brain, and I've never had so much experience, and I feel great. And because of the Sustain Me principles. So I guess that's what we're going through. The next one is
Yes.
A, abstain. You'd probably like me to move on now, hey?
No, please. Because we have sun, water, sleep. The fourth was the Lord.
Trust, and now abstain. So there are some things that must stop if you're looking for optimum performance. And I don't eat meat, but if someone wants to eat meat, it's their choice, but it must be organic because we don't live on a healthy planet. And there's hardly I'm sure that there are organic farmers and you can get it, but the meat from the butcher shop, it should not be touched. Nasty stuff. The animals are sick.
What if it says organic though?
Yeah, it should be.
Are they lying?
If it's certified organic, it has to be.
Okay. That's
You
good
can
to know.
believe it. But please eat a lot of fruits and veggies with it to back it around. But stimulants like refined sugar, I don't eat. Caffeine, I don't eat because of the disruption to the neurotransmitters. Mercury, I keep that out of my body. It's a neurotoxin. Alcohol's a neurotoxin, keep that out of my body. So stimulants and drugs, I keep out of my body. So, and electromagnetic fields, be cautious of it. Get it out of the bedroom, get it away from your body.
Are you talking about like TVs?
I'm talking about phones, iPads. See, 80% of Americans sleep with their phone and the pillow's no protection. They call it
way.
How
No way I
far
could do
should
that.
it be?
They call it the silent killer because you can't see it.
Right.
I keep mine in the bathroom.
That's good. That's
Yep.
good. It's good to hear that.
Yeah.
You're doing
And-
some things right.
No, here's the thing. Well, I definitely try to. It's just so funny how my brain locks into one. Like, for example, like I had like a soda before I came here, but I'm like, I got to make sure my phone's on the cross the room. Like, it's just so funny how my brain works, but I'm praying for more wisdom.
Get that phone away from me as you smoke your marijuana.
That's why I'm paranoid. I'm like, dude, turn it off Wi-Fi. Put it over there. That shit's going to kill you.
gosh.
So it's a little bit of all that, understanding why it's dangerous and keeping that away. So the next one is inhale. What was interesting, I sat with my daughter Jessica. She's my romantic daughter. She's 42, and we're brainstorming about acronym for the laws of health, and we had them all except for I, and we knew we had to get air, and I went, inhale. We had our air, so inhaling through the nose. Mouths for talking, singing, drinking, eating, but nose and nose alone is for breathing.
What if you're
Why
blocked?
is it?
Well, Peter's daughter. Peter does ice baths. Peter's got a House of Cyprus website where he sells Bellicon rebounders, ice baths, steam saunas.
Yeah,
he does
good.
all of that. And he loves Wim Hof and the cold and
The breathing exercises?
cold dunks, the breathing. So he's taught his daughter. So his daughter's staying with me. She's 8, Sophia.
Yeah.
And I put her to bed and she says, Nana, have you got some tape? I've got to tape my mouth up. She said, just get me masking tape, that'll do. She said, I've got a bit of cold, it'll keep my nose clear. So I give her the tape and she just waves good night.
But,
So she can force herself to breathe through her nose at night?
but what if you're stuffed? What if I have like a deviated septum or something like that?
You won't die.
Hard cut. Just-
Your body, do you know what's interesting? And in his book, Breath, James Nestor, he shows that when you nose breathe and you do not breathe through your mouth, it opens up the little canals at the back. And yet if you breathe through your mouth, they actually shrink. So it's a good illustration. If you don't use it, you'll lose it, is the little canals at the back of your nose.
Wow. And then does that allow more oxygen to be getting to your brain?
Yep. The whole thing. 18% more oxygen gets into the cells
How
when
much?
you nose breathe. 18%.
18 or 80?
18.
18.
Wow.
It's
And
my
I mean,
accent.
Yeah.
18.
you also see mouth breathers. You know, some people have they just have to breathe out of their mouth, or like at night and it changes the form
It does.
of their jaws.
It changes the jaw. The roof of the mouth drops. A whole lot of horrible things. And yet, if they tape their mouth up, they couldn't breathe through they could breathe through their nose. Do you know, sleep apnea and snoring would just about be a thing of the past. But you don't actually have to tape your mouth up like Sophia does. You can just put a little tape under your nose and to your chin. You might have a bit of trouble with the bed. And then do it for an hour a day, and then after a week, sleep with it like that. But inhale through the nose, huge health benefits. And then the next one is nutrition. So the 3 essential food groups are fibre. The more fibre, the more variety of fibre, the more microorganisms in the gut. And the more microorganisms in the gut, the stronger your immune system.
What is it what are your favorite fibers?
That's a very hard question. I love fruits and veggies. Legumes are particularly great fibre on the gut.
I didn't know fruits have fiber.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
I don't know.
That's what you're chewing. Is that fibre?
The texture of it.
And so fibre, protein. Protein's an essential nutrient. So I get my protein from legumes, nuts and seeds. I have legumes, nuts, seeds every meal. And then fats, great fats. One author reckons it'll take a whole nother generation to get fat phobia out of the brain.
Right. Because there's healthy fats and then there's the bad fats,
That's
right?
right, that's right.
Like an avocado is a good healthy fat.
Olive oil's a great fat. Coconut oil's a great fat. All your nuts and seeds.
Yeah, I remember when she was dousing olive oil. I was like, hey, there's a lot of fat. And she started laughing at me. She's like, shut up. And I was like, she's like, this is good for you. And I was like, all right.
That's right.
I love olive oil. I don't cut
so do
myself out
I.
of it.
So do I. So do I.
I'm starting to fear that I'm losing my hair. Mm-hmm. I feel like, I don't think I am, but I think it's just like
No,
a
I'm
feeling.
gonna tell you right now. He's stressing about the thought of losing his hair, but this man has so much hair, and I tell him, you keep stressing about losing your hair, you're gonna lose your hair.
It's my father's fault.
Yeah.
He's bald.
But you know, I've got some good news. Most boys take after their mother.
Yes. She has great
Really?
hair.
Oh, she does.
She has great hair. But say, God forbid, I was losing my hair. Is there any type of, like,
Well, you can rub coconut oil in with a bit of rosemary oil. In my book, Sustain Me, I've got a chapter on hair loss. But
What
your
about
hair looks
castor
pretty
oil?
Good. Yeah, castor oil can be nice too.
With it?
It's
Mm.
very thick and sticky.
I'm just wondering. And do you use castor oil for many remedies?
Lots of remedies. Lots of remedies. Great in the eyes.
eyes?
Do you know what amazes me? People say, oh, but Barbara, is it safe? Well, do people ever ask the doctor, is it safe when they're going to put a needle in the eye? I would never let anyone put a needle in my eye.
Who puts a needle in their eye?
They put needles in people's eyes to release pressure for glaucoma when all they really need is castor oil.
I have castor oil on right now in my eyes.
Mm.
I use it as an eye cream.
Yeah.
I put it underneath my eyes and over my eyelids, and I douse my eyelashes, and it's grown my eyelashes a lot.
Yeah, it does. Does. One lady told me that she got an empty mascara container and put castor oil in it for her 14-year-old daughter, and the eyelashes are getting thicker.
Yeah, it's a good beauty hack.
You've done so much good things for other homes. Have you ever been ridiculed for anything, or like, does it ever get to you? Do you ever feel like you're scared of leading somebody in the wrong direction?
No. In fact, people say to me, "You got so many great stories, Barbara. Any failures?" I said, the only failure is on the part of the person to do what you got to do to get better. So if someone has fibroids, for instance, it's obviously it's a hormonal imbalance. So you've got to go on the YAM cream. The YAM cream is what you apply to the skin, and the fat cells take it up. It goes through the biochemical pathway that causes that hormone to rebalance, because it's high estrogen that causes those growths, and so many women have it. And apply castor oil compresses to the abdomen. It'll penetrate deep and help to break up the fibroid. So I met this lady in Wales last year. She said, "Barbara, I've been doing that, but it's not working." So the next thing I do is investigate. So how often do you do the YAM cream? Oh, when I remember it. How often do you do the castor oil? Oh, about once a week. I said, well, no wonder. I mean, if you only ate once a week, you wouldn't be too healthy.
Yeah.
It's got to be consistency. In fact, I say the key is consistency so much that my iPad just prints it up for me. The key is consistency.
And so the remedy for fibroids, would it be the same for PCOS?
Yep,
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
YAM cream and castor oil.
yep.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Because I know, like I have PCOS, and I know so many of my girlfriends who do.
Yep.
And it's this. And when you go to the doctor, what's wild is when you go to the gynecologist, not a single gynecologist have I seen has told me a single thing to do about the fact that I have cysts. Like nothing. No one knows anything.
They don't. They
Yeah.
don't. But it's a hormonal imbalance. The reason why medicine finds it hard to admit this is because the pill, the contraceptive pill, is the number one cause, because it throws the hormones out. So we've got women. See, I'm what's considered a baby boomer, a child of the 50s. And the baby boomers were the generation that the pill was first given to. So let's look at the baby boomers' children. So it's the baby boomers that were put on the pill. Every girl I knew was on the pill when we were in our 20s, early 20s, late teens. But no one told us about the dangers, and they don't.
Right.
So what's happening to that generation is they're giving birth to men and women who have hormonal imbalance. They're the women that are getting the fibroids, the polycystic ovarian syndrome, the
Right.
cysts on the ovaries, the breast cancer. They're the young men that have low sperm count, penile dysfunction, eventually prostate. And it's all the generation after the baby boomers.
Wow. So how do you rebalance your hormones after, let's say you've been on the pill or you had an IUD for a while? How could you rebalance yourself?
That's where the YAM cream comes in. See, Psalm 104 verse 14, the Bible says that God gave herbs for the service of man. I love that verse, service. So the herbs come in and say, where would you like me? What would you like me to do? compared to drugs are like robots. Get out of my way. I've got a job to do whether you need it or not. See the difference between working with the herbs. Now, the herbs work with the needs of the body. And so what the pill does is it disrupts the balance, whereas the yam cream restores the balance.
Amazing. Wow. Yam cream is so, you would have never thought that, yam would have been the thing to fix your hormone imbalance.
And what's interesting is that your liver detoxifies most of the actives. That's why it's got to be cream on the skin.
What do you mean by that? Like, well, how does it, like the actives, like, if you eat the yam, so you don't get the same benefits if you eat it. Interesting. Okay. And then, since you brought up the liver, I'm really interested in this, what are ways that you would support a healthy liver? And if you have a little bit of liver damage, how would you fix that?
Well, the good news is the liver's a recoverable organ. You know what that means? It can recover.
Yeah.
And there are some really good herbs. You've heard the old saying, sweet to the mouth, bitter to the stomach. Bitter to the mouth, sweet to the stomach.
Never.
Well, it's actually bitter to the mouth, sweet to the liver. So your bitter herbs are very good for the liver.
What is a bitter herb?
Bitter to the mouth. So if you've ever eaten a dandelion leaf, it's very bitter.
You eat dandelion leaves?
Yeah.
You could eat a dandelion leaf?
Yeah, they're everywhere.
That's
here.
so funny because that cartoon's like, dandelion. And he like eats it.
I don't know.
You guys know what I'm talking about?
No.
From Ice Age?
Dandelion. And then it eats it. And so anytime I think of that, I think of the dandelion.
If I drink dandelion root tea, is that as good as having it fresh?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Eat a couple of flowers a day, chew on a couple of leaves, have some dandelion coffee, and also milk thistle. That's another good liver herb.
Okay. Thank you.
Barbara, it's such a pleasure talking to you. Before we land the plane down,
Yeah.
I wanted to have like a little Q&A with you.
Yeah.
Just like fire off questions that we're curious about and get some awesome answers for you because whatever we're dealing with, God willing, they're dealing with it. They can learn with us.
Well, before we go there, we've got 2 laws left.
Yes.
Moderation and exercise. That sustain me.
That's so funny that those are the last 2 that I almost disregarded. Those are the 2 that I need. I swear to you.
Can we just move on?
Yeah. I'm so sorry about that. Moderation is something I have a huge problem with. Is Peter like this?
I get that in the sun experience.
Yes. But is Peter like this?
Yes.
Is he like all in or nothing?
Yes.
That's how I am. I hate one
He
foot in,
seriously
one
is.
foot
You
out
got to
thing.
meet him one day.
I feel like I met
They
him
do,
every
yeah.
time I look in the mirror. And I would love to meet him. I would absolutely. If you guys are ever in Arizona or California, or if you guys are wherever you're at, we'll try to meet with you. But
That'd be
but
amazing.
yeah, no, I really like moderation. To me is such a problem. Like I noticed it heavily with marijuana because marijuana was the first substance in my life that I wanted that my parents probably didn't want me on and God didn't want me on. And so it put this uncomfortableness in my heart and helped me focus that I was like, oh, damn, like I have a very bad issue of saying no to the things that I want. If I want it, I have a very addictive personality. I will get it. But yeah, that's for my therapist. No, I don't have a therapist. Okay, let's. I know you have some stuff that's written from both of our parents because they almost flew out of the roof when they found out that you are our guest today, and they wrote down on a piece of paper like we need to learn about this. But before we get into them, and this is gonna go back to my gut issue, and the reason I'm excited to get back into this is because I know a lot of people have gut issues right now. I have inflammation here and here. I'm completely like I am thin everywhere else. I'm like and I'm not saying I'm strong, but I have no fat on any part of my body at all. But I have fat stored up right here.
If I've learned anything in my life, because diligence is Peter's second name and diligence is my second name. So when I go at something big time.
Yep.
And what I have learnt in my life is to never be absolute.
What does that mean?
Meaning it's so much, it's just, you've got to do this, this will heal you. But it's like one writer said, all diseases in the mind. Well, it's not. For that person it might be, and for that person it might be half, and for that person it might be a third, and for that person it might be a quarter. And that's why I say everyone should be their own doctor. because what you've got to look at is what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's why I like looking through those laws of health. Am I exercising? Am I getting to bed too late? Am I drinking adequate water?
That affects
Am
my
I-
fat?
Everything.
Can I ask why, though?
Well, did you realise that the microorganisms in our body are different in our gut early morning to evening? Did you know that our gut digests food better in the morning and at lunch than in the evening? Because when the sun goes down, our body knows, and our body changes, even to the microorganisms. So it's looking at the time that you're eating, looking at when you're eating, looking at how much you're eating. So I advocate eating most of our food at breakfast and at lunch, and if you eat at night, keep it light. And going to...
I eat a ton of food and then go to bed.
Yeah.
That's probably bad.
Oh, there we go.
No, like a lot. I eat like 2
But do
burgers,
you know
fries,
that-
soda, and then go to sleep.
Oh, well, we just found the problem.
Yeah. At least I'm honest.
And if you eat a decent breakfast and a decent lunch, you don't feel like much at night. So the problem is when you don't eat much through the day, then you do have a huge appetite at
So
night.
I don't eat anything during the day.
Yeah, we're finding a few problems here.
So, okay, it's my patterns. Last night I was watching Billy Graham. Do you know who Billy Graham is? He's an amazing preacher, passed away a while ago.
Yeah.
Billy Graham is, I feel like, anointed from Jesus. And last night I was just studying about the Holy Spirit. And right before I went to bed, I said, Lord, I really want to fix my sleeping patterns. And I randomly looked at my phone, and I went to bed last night at, what time was it here? Like 1, 2? 2. But when I looked at the clock in Arizona, it was 11. So I go to bed in Arizona around 4. So I cut through a lot of hours of sleeping, and it was one of the greatest nights of sleep I've had. Last night was one of the greatest nights of sleep I've ever had in my life. So you saying that the time, is that because our ancestors did a pattern so much that their grandchildren have to follow that pattern?
No, it's to do with the tides, it's to do with the moon, it's to do with the circadian rhythm that God
That's a
put
real
in it.
thing? That's not like
That's
a witchcraft
right.
thing?
No. It's to do with God, what God put in our bodies. The rhythm that he put in our bodies. And I remember when I did my nutrition course, one question was on rhythm. And it was fascinating. I had to write about rhythm in the body. We walk rhythmically. Every single organ in the body works according to rhythm. And then the rhythm of the planet, the seasons, the moons, the tides, and it's called our circadian rhythm inside our brain. And what I discovered is that it's light and dark signals that set it.
Of course
So
it is.
what really disrupts it is computers and phones once the sun goes down.
And
So-
I always work on my phone, so that's why
Yeah.
I'm staying up all night.
And so, so that really throws it out. But what resets it is the first hour of light in a day. And yet when you go to bed late at night, you never get that first hour of light.
I get up around okay, so if I'm working, I can get up no problem. But if I don't have work, I plan my own schedule because I sleep late. I try not to wake up until noon. So I'm guessing that's another problem.
Yeah.
So my whole body's just off of the
Yeah.
rhythm that God wants me to be on.
Yeah.
And so what I'm doing is trying to tell God how to make my body work while God's trying to tell me how to make my
You know
body
what,
work.
George? There's no puzzle here. Next.
I think I just need to hear it from you. You know, it's so funny. You can hear it from somebody so many times, but then when you hear it from the right person, it just clicks sometimes. That's how I am.
married a night owl, Michael.
Yeah.
So when we married, I was 44, he was 40. That was 27 years ago. And he was used to going to bed at midnight, 1, because he had 2 kids. He put them to bed because they're single father, then he'd go to the office. So I'd go into the office at 8:30 and say, I have claims, you're mine.
I love that. That's so cute.
But about once every few weeks he says, I just got to do it. I'm behind. I just got to do it. So of course he did it. But you know, he never does it now. He used to say, no one rings me at midnight. Well, no one rings you at 5 a.m. And so he trained himself back into, because he was encouraged by his wife to come to bed with me. So now, if he's got extra work to do in the office, he'll just go to bed earlier, get up earlier, because what he does from, say, 5 to 7 in the office, he can get twice, 3 times as much done compared to 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Is that because he's waking up, and you were saying in the beginning, when you're during your playing and studying, your brain's like the most focus?
Yeah.
So what he's doing is he was working extra hard during his brain fog time.
Yeah.
And then throwing out a security, something rhythm.
Yeah.
And in the morning, when he needed to recycle that time, he's sleeping in.
Yeah. Yep. And you see, what was also happening was that you lose, you're interested in this. See, one hormone that's released at the moment, it's released between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. In the wintertime, it's released between 9 p.m. and 2 a.m. is melatonin, that's fix and rejuvenate nighttime hormone, but also epithalamin. And epithalamin increases learning capacity, and epithalamin slows down aging. That's why if you have a look at rock stars, don't look too close.
Their
age. Because what time do rock stars usually go to bed?
When the sun comes up, baby.
That's right.
How can you get more epithalamin?
Epithalamin is just going to bed earlier.
How do you get yourself to go to bed if you can't?
Well, if you want to go to bed at 9, you've got to start working on it at 7.
You got to start working out at 7?
You've got to start working on the plan.
Oh, gotcha.
So at 7 o'clock, you've got to think, right, I'm going to go to bed at 9. So I'll get this done. I'll get that done. I'll have a hot shower. I'll turn the lights low. The technology's away. And you've got to wind yourself down. But one lady told me she did this. She used to go to bed at midnight every night. So she started to go to bed at 11:30. And then after a week, 11. And then after another week, 10:30. So
She microdosed time.
she eased herself into it.
What time would you say is a great time to wake up? Like for a man who's hungry, he's about to get married, he doesn't have any kids, he wants to be diligent and plan his future, because I'm learning that the younger you are that build good habits, they carry on easier when you're older.
It does. Your habits can be your best friends or your worst enemies.
Yeah.
And the research is showing that we can rewire our brains right up until the day we die.
So
So-
that whole, like, you can't teach a new dog or old dog.
They've proven it to be wrong. It's called neuroplasticity or soft wired.
Yeah. I mean, I never believed in that because I felt like our wisdom came from the Lord. And he never looked at us and being like, you're too old.
It does. I mean, Moses was 850 or something.
Yeah, but he wasn't allowed in the promised land. I was kidding.
Yeah, but he's in heaven.
Yeah. All right, babe, break out these questions that mom and mom have.
Mom and mom. I got lots of questions. All right.
I'm gonna practice that sleeping, and I hope we can exchange numbers, and I'll keep you posted. You'll be like my doctor now.
Well, you know what? I'll be there to push you a little extra harder because I can't take it anymore. I need sleep. We got to go to bed. But we love being up. But I'll push you to do it. Okay, so the first one, do you have any recommendations to get rid of varicose veins?
Well, in my book, Sustain Me, I have a chapter called Lovely Legs. That's the title of the chapter. Now, varicose veins have an inherited factor, so, obviously there are none in my family. I'm 70 and there's not a mark on my legs. Now, yes, that's a bit inherited. Yes, that's a bit because I run up and down hills every morning. Yes, that's a bit because I don't have excess weight. So there's an inherited factor. There's standing on your feet all day. That doesn't help. Carrying excess weight is another factor. Bad footwear. I'm real fussy on my footwear. I only ever let the bottom of my feet touch natural fibre. So I'm on suede and cork here at the moment. And if I've got shoes on, I always have cotton or woolen socks. So that's a factor. Constipation is a factor. If we should, Dr. Kellogg, he said 3 intakes of food a day should equal 3 evacuations a day. So they're all factors. Now, the best exercise for people with varicose veins is not running because of the jarring on the legs. It's swimming or rebounding or exercise bike.
Okay, very interesting.
Because with the rebound, you've got a shock absorber effect when you're jumping. And of course, exercise bike. Most of your weight is on your hips. Swimming, there's no exercise. But varicose veins, it's veins, your venous system, and we have a second heart that pumps the blood in the veins, and that's the heart. That second heart is your calf muscle. So see, just doing that, just making your foot go like that, see your calf muscles being pumped.
Wow.
So you want to up your circulation. Amazing. Another question I have, actually this is for me. I've recently learned that I have an issue with my diaphragm. For my whole life, I get the hiccups very often. Some days, like just last week, I had the hiccups for the entire day. And for a while, I thought it was because in high school, I had gotten pleurisy in my left lung from scuba diving in a pool. And I thought that I was like, oh, I have scar tissue in my lung. And so, because sometimes out of nowhere, I'll just be standing here and it feels like my lung catches. It feels like it's like catching on a bone, and I can't take any breaths. I have to take really little breaths, and it's caught on, and I either have to wait till it goes away or I have to just take a big breath so it unhooks. And so that happens. And then I learned from my cousin's husband that it was actually, he's like, that sounds like it's your diaphragm. And I've realized that I get a lot of hiccups. It feels like my lung catches, and there's something else, but I can't remember what. But so, what is that?
It probably is your lung catching, and it probably is a bit of scar tissue from the pleurisy.
Okay. So
And just breathing deeply, just make sure it's always nose. And always, you're sitting fairly straight, and strong abs. Very important to have strong abs. A lot of people don't have strong abs.
This woman does.
yeah, I have good
so
abs.
that's
but-
Same,
good.
sure.
So you're probably, it sounds like you're managing it well.
So it's just scar tissue.
It
or it's
sounds
just-
like it would be, the fact that it's fairly unique to your experience, and you had that pleurisy. I'd say that's what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Because your diaphragm is part of your abs,
Yeah.
so keeping that strong is important.
So why do we get the hiccups so much?
I don't know. But what you can do is you hold your breath.
Yeah, sometimes.
You hold your breath often does it. A friend of mine reckons that just drinking orange juice would get rid of hiccups.
Really?
So it's a matter of managing it.
Okay.
Do you know, one day the Bible says Jesus will come again and then we'll all be healed. But until then, we manage.
Exactly.
And the natural remedies, they help us manage.
100%. All right. Parasite treatments. I think it was your mom, she'd heard that there's like a supplement for it, or you had spoken about something that can help for that. How would you deal with
Well,
parasites?
I always look at why the parasite's there. The parasites only really live where they're getting well fed. So again, that's why it's important to make sure the bowels are evacuating regularly. And the way to do that is to have a really nice high fibre diet and make sure that you're well hydrated. There are herbs for the parasites and for worms, and that is wormwood and black walnut and oregano essential oil. Usually, I know in Australia you can buy a supplement.
Yeah.
It's like a parasite mix. And it's usually you take that 3 times a day for a week, then stop for a couple of weeks in case any little eggs are hatching out, and then take it again for a couple of weeks. It's something like that.
Okay.
I took a parasited medicine. I never followed up with my doctor because my doctor was incompetent. And I feel like it got worse.
Yeah, well, what I'd like to suggest is if it was a drug, it probably disrupted your gut a bit. One of the best ways to bring balance back to your gut is include things like sauerkraut, yogurts, kombucha drinks. Have you ever had that ginger kombucha?
I love kombucha. And maybe you should do a little bit of, the wormwood with the walnut and,
Yeah, but at the same time, of course, these parasites and worms love junk food. You
So
gotta
do
get-
I.
Yeah, you got to get the junk food.
Turns
away.
out, I feel like I'm like identifying as a parasite.
Listen,
actually,
it's
at this
them.
But the more junk you eat, the more you crave.
Yeah,
Right.
yep.
That's why
I'm
sometimes.
craving it right now, to be honest. You're telling me not to eat it. I'm like, we should go right now.
And one thing you can do is just do a day or two on juices, vegetable juices. That's a really good way to change your
To cleanse out.
change. Yep.
Ooh, I did that when I was younger. Before I jumped into keto, I did that, and I felt like it reset my body.
Yeah, it does.
Okay,
It
I'll do
does.
that. Thank you,
A lot of
Barb.
people do that.
I appreciate that.
Georgie's Nana, she has tendinitis. and she gets a high ring in her ear, and it pounds her head. She has large pulses in her ear, and her head pounds even when her blood pressure is not high. And it happens more frequently now, sometimes 2 times a week.
Well, what I would look at if I was this lady, I would write down when it happens and then write down what she's been doing, how much she's been drinking, is she having any coffee, what was her last meal. She's got to find out what's triggering it.
Oh, so there is
Okay.
something that's like that is triggering it.
I'd say so, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Is there anything that she can take herbally or naturally to help
What
her?
she can do is she can breathe very, very deeply through her nose. I call it God's LSD, long, slow, deep breaths.
Okay.
Why do you call it that? Do you feel like you're tingling in your floating?
LSD, long, slow, deep. I know that's not easy for the dyslexic.
I'm getting burned by her, man.
Long, slow, deep. Long, slow, deep, because our abdominal muscles were designed to aid in the breathing process. So you do 5 seconds in, hold for 3, 5 seconds out. You do that 10 times and that should ease it. Because what that breathing long, slow, deep does, it stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, and the parasympathetic nervous is your peaceful, calming nervous system, whereas high chest mouth breathing like this, that stimulates your sympathetic nervous system, and that's your stress, fight and flight nervous system.
I'm already so much more like relaxed than that.
Are you
Amazing.
asleep yet?
Thank you. Okay. We know somebody who has ITP.
What's that?
ITP, what's that?
ITP. Hold on. I'm so sorry.
Do you know what it is?
Idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura.
Don't you love those names they throw out now?
Low levels
is
of
that?
the blood cells
Do you
that
know
prevent
what?
bleeding.
Do you know what idiopathic means? It's in your mind. Idio. I don't spend a lot of time trying to work out these names. So if someone tells me that, I say, what are your symptoms?
So she has low platelets, and she's like on a million medications.
And you know what my next comment is? How do you know?
She got him tested.
Why'd you have them tested?
I think she was vaccinated and it corrupted her body.
You see, I don't have any tests. None.
Because it messes with your mind?
Well, why? Why would I have a test?
Because they want to show you the results.
And I don't. You know what my results are? What my body tells me.
Is that because you'll bring more faith into that problem?
Well, it's because I've seen so many people feeling great have a test. Oh no!
Yeah.
And that's a lady said, I've got a cyst on my ovary. I said, hey, I probably have too, but I'll never know.
You know, it's funny you say that. Tony Robbins was sitting with us, and he said that he put 10 people in a room. He gave 5 people medicine, and he gave 5 of them poison. And he told the ones with poison that it's medicine, and he told the ones that were medicine it was poison. And the study showed that the ones that were told that it's poison, that actually had medicine, it poisoned their body.
That's right.
And the ones that had
That's right.
medicine, or had the poison, and they said it was medicine, it actually healed them.
That's
So
right.
it's I agree. I mean, it's a little tricky. You know what I mean? Like if you faint all the time, I think you should definitely go get checked.
But you know what I'd do first of all? I'd say, how much sleep are you getting? How much water are you drinking? When are you fainting? You investigate yourself first. So when this arm just wasn't working and everything I'm doing, then I go and have a test and I find out that I've got a tear of my supraspinatus tendon here, and the surgeon says it must be stitched because it's split a centimetre. No wonder I can't move my arm. See, if I've done everything I know and it's still not working, then I might investigate. But because I don't have private insurance, I had to wait 10 months for a surgery. But by the time the surgery became available, I'd already healed it.
Dude,
Just
I like you.
comfrey poultices every day. Oh, it's healed.
So, would you do anything about the low platelets?
Well, that's what I would look at. I ask for symptoms because blood tests, you know, they can change.
Yeah.
Let's say you haven't slept for a couple of nights, you're dehydrated, you're not eating well, you're highly stressed. What's your blood test going to look like?
Not good.
And then 2 weeks later, you had a really good sleep, you're well hydrated, you exercised, you had a cold plunge, you had a great breakfast. What's the blood test going to look like?
Really good.
Right. All right. And then
I like this whole doctoring yourself theory
Yeah,
because I think we all suffer from hypochondriac.
that's right.
You know what I mean? I may have said that wrong. It's because I'm dyslexic.
Well, you know, it's a dyslexic word, but we accept that.
Thank you.
we know what you mean.
We know what you mean.
This
And
one-
you get away with it because you're dyslexic.
Yep.
What can help women who have had a radical hysterectomy to activate their metabolism again that shut down after the surgery?
I'm so sorry to hear that. I don't agree with cutting body parts out. Now, for someone to have had a complete hysterectomy, that tells me there was something wrong with their uterus. And if there was something wrong with their uterus, it's 99% of the time because of a hormonal imbalance. So even though the uterus has been taken out, the cause of the uterus being taken out was never addressed. So it's very important for them to go on the yam cream because that will bring that balance back. That's where I'd start.
Amazing. Okay. Thank you so much. Well, those are all my questions that I've
Uh-huh.
gathered from all the communities around us.
All right. Before we land the plane completely, my one last question is, and I pray to God that this suits a lot of homes. I'm just going to take it back to parents that want to take that step you're taking, but it's still, they're nervous and maybe they haven't educated themselves. They're at the stage you were when you were 25 and they're scared. How would you get these parents to move in the direction that you're moving?
It is a difficult one. And what really spurred me on in my investigation was not wanting to give my kids drugs anymore. He's been confronted with the fact that it was not working. And it's such a pity that many people don't look for this journey until the child is damaged. So many parents have never questioned vaccination until they've got a dyslexic child, until they've got an epileptic child. So before this happens, I say investigate, investigate, investigate. Find out what's in those vaccines. And the doctor that's going to vaccinate your child say, will you sign this piece of paper that you will be accountable if my child has a reaction? No child will be vaccinated because every parent vaccinates their child because they want the best for it. But please find out what's in it. Please look a little bit further. So that's very, very important, is to investigate. Psalm 146 verse 3, the Bible says, put not your trust in princes. So who are the princes?
The government, the
The
doctors.
princes are the authorities in the field.
Yeah.
Yes, you might go to them for an opinion, but that's all it is. And that's why I say to parents, so the doctor's given you an opinion on your child. Your child's got strep throat. We used to call it sore throat, but now they call it strep throat. And the doctor says if you don't take this antibiotics, it could go to their kidneys or their brain and they could get brain damage. I don't believe that.
I was taking a Z-Pack every month.
Yeah. Put not your trust in princes. So what you say is, you take the script and you say, thank you so much for your advice. Can you see the smile?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your advice. I'm going to seriously consider this, and you leave. And don't look at Dr. Google, because was probably written by that doctor that's going to say that the child's going to get brain damage or kidney damage. No, it's just a sore throat. Remember what our grandmothers did? Lemon and honey, feet in hot water with a bit of mustard, go to bed, eat lightly. If they get a fever, praise God. Just what puts fire out? Water. Put them in a tepid bath, give them lots of water. And it will let it run its course. Let it run its course. And I'd encourage every mother to look for my book, Sustain Me, because it's a handbook on natural remedies. I wrote it so that mothers could have this book in their home. So, my child's got this, what can I do?
Amazing. That's amazing.
I love that.
so
That's
practical.
amazing. Thank you so much for inviting us here and having this conversation. I pray that all the doors that are closed on you to go and help others are flown right open. I pray protection over you and your family because I know the devil doesn't love what you're doing. I pray that your bloodline continues the blessings that you do. And I pray that we could have a conversation in the future.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barbara.